welcome back to another All Heart video. Today we are going to be talking about how to set up our shelf for the activities that we want our children to engage with. Further on in this video, I will be classifying what constitutes a Montessori toy because there is a difference. If you go to Montessori classrooms, you're going to see that a lot of the toys are very, very different than something that you would find in the home. So we are going to go into a little bit of more detail throughout this video. Now, the first thing that you want to do is make sure that you declutter the toys that you are not going to want displayed on your shelf. So if you guys haven't watched the decluttering video, make sure to watch that one first, as it'll make it a little easier for you to figure out what toys you want to keep and which toys you want to get rid of. And I'll go ahead and leave that video linked down below so that you can catch up on that video. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started on preparing our shelf. Now, what makes a toy Montessori? So a Montessori toy is one, made out of natural materials like wood, so something like this. And it is also a toy that targets one skill point at a time. So something like this, where the skill is to obviously place the ball inside of the hole. And it also promotes that repetition. So it's something that they're able to do over and over and over again until they've mastered that skill set. And Montessori activities are complete in that they've got like a beginning, a middle, and an end. So these are the types of toys that if you're looking at staying a lot more traditional with your Montessori toys, these are the types of toys that you would want to invest in. There is a difference between the toys that you would find strictly in a Montessori classroom and the toys that you would find in a Montessori home. So what I like about having a Montessori home is that there is a bit more freedom in the toys that we get to choose for our kids. So if you are still a little bit confused as to what toys you could have in a Montessori home, let me go ahead and give you just a little bit of a list, and hopefully that'll kind of help you in your kind of search for toys that you could have in your home. So toys such as Legos. We happen to have a whole bunch of Legos, and they're perfect for that hand and eye coordination and those gross motor skills, because they do kind of have to fit the, fit the little pegs on top of one another to create whatever they're trying to create. Things like the vehicles that I mentioned earlier. Try and have vehicles that are based on their reality. So like construction trucks, fire trucks, police cars, things of that nature. Also, wooden blocks are really good to kind of aid in that open-ended play. Things like animal figures. Now, we have a lot of the Holztiger toys, which I mention all the time. So these are based on their reality. They look just like the animal would. Here's our little raccoon. So toys of this nature are perfect for their language development and, again, open-ended play. They can use their imagination with these toys in whichever way they want. So these are beautiful toys, and I love keeping toys like this in our playroom. The next thing would be like train sets. Those are perfect for open-ended toys. Board games are another thing. I feel like a lot of Montessori families don't really talk about board games, and we have a ton of board games in our home. It's such a useful educational tool, and I feel like some parents don't really think of board games as being educational, but there is a lot of useful information that children gain from just playing a board game. So if you guys want to know more about the types of board games that we have on our house, please go ahead and comment that below, and I will make sure to do a video on that. Traditionally, in a Montessori classroom, they are going to use trays that have handles. So something like this would be perfect. And that is just because it is a lot easier for your child to kind of grip the handles and remove their trays when they're ready to work on an activity. Now, that doesn't mean that those are the only types of trays that you're allowed to use. When we are doing Montessori at home, like I said, we do have a little bit more freedom in the types of things that we are allowed to use. So any types of trays that your child is able to kind of lift up and carry is going to be perfect. And they don't necessarily have to be made out of wood. You can also use baskets, and those could be either like wicker baskets, or they could be baskets that are kind of made out of cloth. So something like this is perfect for displaying a lot of those little shelf activities as well. So why does Montessori use trays in the first place? And some of the reasons are that it keeps things nice and orderly. It keeps things uncluttered. It also keeps the activity that you've set out in one place. That way, when your child is wanting to work on that activity, they can remove that entire tray, and that tray will have everything that they will need to complete that one activity. Not only that, but it also allows for independence, coordination, and it just makes it easier for them to kind of, like I said, remove the activity from the shelf, put everything back on that tray, and put it back on the shelf at the end of that activity. Now, when choosing your baskets, you do want to make sure that the basket is not too deep. And what I mean by that is if the basket is way too high to where your child is not able to see what is inside the activity, then I would suggest you kind of steer away from anything like that. Now, these are okay because they are not too deep, so that when my child is close to her shelf, she is able to see exactly what is inside. The next thing that you want to remember before setting up your shelf is to make sure that whatever activity that you want to present, so let's say for example, something like this, do not present it already completed, because that's going to deter your child from wanting to work on it. I kind of like to give the example of a puzzle. If I were to set out a puzzle that was already made, it's not going to make me want to work on that puzzle, take it apart, and then restart it again from scratch. Whereas if I were to be presented with a puzzle where I would just see the pieces, then that's going to make me want to work on that puzzle and actually complete it. So the same goes with an activity like this. So if I were to present this to my child, I would have the peg on the side, and then I would keep all of the little corresponding parts to its side, and then place that on the shelf just like this. That way, when my daughter wants to work on it, it's something that she can remove from the shelf, place it on the floor, she can complete it, and then when she's done, she can put it back on the shelf. And I don't make my daughter take it apart before putting it back. That's something that I will do at the end of the day in order for her to work on it again the next day if she wants to. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that when you are setting up your shelf activities, you do want to set them up just like you would be reading a book. So from left to right, and the level of difficulty will get more difficult the more to the right it goes. So you may want to start off with an easier activity over towards the left side, and then perhaps either a different activity or maybe the same activity but a bit more challenging over to the other side, so over towards the right. So make sure that when you are setting up your activities that you leave space in between. So if I'm using something like this, which has a longer tray, then I will perhaps only set 2 activities on this shelf. So just kind of keep that in mind before you start setting out your toys. So if you watched my decluttering video, you'll remember that I decided to keep the little threading beads with their little corresponding little laces. So for something like this, I'm just going to go ahead and use one of these little baskets. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to set the little laces on the side, and then I'm going to place the beads over towards this side. And that's really all that you have to do. There is no need for me to also put this on top of a tray. I can just leave this off to the side right here. And then my daughter is able to remove the little basket and work on that activity when she wants to. Now, for something like these puzzles that also come with like the corresponding little pieces, I'm going to want to use either two trays or 1 tray and then 1 small basket. And the reason for that is because I don't want to just set out all of the puzzles and then just kind of throw the pieces over to the side. I kind of want to create a little bit more structure so that we don't end up losing a lot of these pieces, and so they're not just floating around. So for something like this, I would also not put every single puzzle on there, especially because this is new to my daughter and she hasn't worked on anything like this before. So I would choose one of the easier ones, perhaps something like this, because the picture is slightly easier and I know that my daughter really loves flowers, so this is something that she would enjoy working on. I would set this on the side like this, so just one puzzle at a time, and then I would either use a little tray like this or a little basket. So for this activity, I'm going to use this tray, and I'm going to put the corresponding pieces here. Now, I'm only going to use the same amount of pieces as would be used to complete this little puzzle. I'm not going to add any more than that. That way she'll see that she has utilized every single piece and we don't lose any extra pieces. So everything that she would need to complete this activity is in this tray. I'm gonna place this on the side, and I'm gonna go ahead and place this activity on the bottom shelf, just like that. So like I mentioned before with the puzzles, for something like this, because it already has a pretty thick base, I'm not going to go ahead and set this on a tray either. And I have gone ahead and removed all of the pieces, and I've placed all of the corresponding pieces in a small little basket. Again, something that is not too deep, something that she is able to see from the top, and it doesn't obscure any of the pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and place the puzzle and the corresponding pieces in basket right here. That way when she wants to work on it, she can just kind of lift up the baskets and the pieces are right there ready for her to use. And that way it also doesn't take up any more space, so that I can also add an activity over towards the right side. Now, what do you do with activities that perhaps your son or daughter has been working on for a while and you feel that they have mastered it? Now, a lot of parents may think that that is something that they should automatically remove because, again, they've already mastered it. There's no reason for them to continue the activity. However, I do want you to kind of observe your child, because if they are still working on that puzzle, if you see that they are still using it, interacting with it, and they are still fully engaged with that toy, then I would suggest keeping it. A lot of times, you know, they are still going through this repetition. They are still kind of working to refine a lot of those skills, and they will let you know when they are done with an activity, and perhaps there's a way that you can make it a little bit more challenging for them. So even if to your mind they've already mastered it, to them it is something that they still want to repeat and work on. So just go ahead and keep that activity on the shelf. So the reason why I brought that up is because I have this Montessori puzzle that my daughter loves to work on, and she's loved it from the moment that we gifted it to her. And we gave this to her when she turned, I believe she was a little over 1, so maybe like 1.5. But it is just all of these different puzzles with the corresponding shapes. Now, she knows how to do this 100%. She could probably do it blindfolded, but this is a toy that she loves to engage with, and she uses it every single time. So this is something that I'm going to keep out on the shelf for her, and I just have it out on a tray like this. I've got all of the corresponding little slots on the right side, and then I've got the corresponding pieces over here to the left. And I'm just gonna go ahead and set it on the bottom, just like this, so that everything is there for her to use. So the last thing that I want to teach you how to set up is their art supplies. So when you want to set up an art activity, like I've mentioned before, you do want to set up everything that they would need to complete the entire activity. I've gone ahead and set it up on this tray. So I have the watercolor paper here, and make sure that when you are setting up the appropriate tools, that again, that you are using higher quality materials, especially with the paper. If you want them to do an activity where they've got to paint, then please purchase the corresponding paper. Nothing worse than your child working diligently on an activity with watercolors and then the paper soaking up all of that water and that paint and then it running through the other side and ruining their picture. That is so heartbreaking. So make sure that you give them the appropriate tools for this activity. So I have given them 2 different watercolor papers. They have their paintbrush. They've got a little tray, which when they are inside the playroom, I will put a little bit of water. And again, make sure that you only put enough water in that you are willing to clean up. You don't want to give them too much water to where they make a big mess, they ruin their picture, or they make a spill and then the activity is no longer fun. So just add a little bit of water and then I will give them 1 or 2 different paints. And I'll go ahead and actually pour this inside of another little tray. And then I've also included their little art apron. So this is exactly how I would set up this activity. Just like this. And then this is the final thing that I will include on my daughter's shelf. And I will just include this up here, just like that. And that's it, you guys. Hopefully this video was informative. Hopefully it'll help you if you are just starting out with Montessori and you are interested in learning how to set up some of those shelves. Our next video is going to be on how to specifically present an activity for your child. So make sure that you guys come back for that one. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit that like, make sure to subscribe and ring that little notification bell so that you are notified of when I post that very next video. Please take care of yourselves out there, enjoy the weekend, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye.